So congratulations for your re-election as co-chair of European Greens. Please tell us which are your main projects.
The main project in the next year will still be building and supporting new member parties or existing member parties in former Eastern Europe or in Southern Europe. We Greens had a very successful campaign in the last European elections, mainly in 12 countries of the European Union, which is clearly not enough representation of the different views and different societal realities that we have within the European Union. So this is one of my main priorities. And then in the next step, preparing the European elections. We are, since 2004, one party altogether, European Green Party, and there are local chapters, the national Green Parties. But as we are in governments in some countries and in opposition in other countries, it's going to be quite challenging to organize a campaign that includes both views and I would say both narratives.
What are your thoughts and feelings about what's happening in Ukraine, about this terrible war that Russia started?
Personally, I'm quite affected. I'm a child of Cold War. I grew up in Austria in a situation of two blocks pointing thousands of nukes onto each other. So personally, it affects me a lot. Politically, it is an undescribable, horrible situation. Every war is horrible, but such a blunt aggression against a neighboring state is we have not seen since Hitler's attack on Poland 39. And worked a lot on non-proliferation, so on reducing nuclear weapons. And now Ukraine, the only country that ever gave up their nuclear weapons, is attacked by exactly the neighbor that they have given up the nukes for. And this is a real pushback.
And they signed for that Budapest Memorandum in 1994, and Russia guaranteed at that time that the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine will be kept, will be respected.
Exactly, and that means no agreements, no contracts that we ever done with Russia we can rely on. We have to expect all of this to be questioned or to be disrespected. Russia has gone in disrespect with all the international rulings, all the international law, and they are questioning the peace order that we have established after 45. And this is not just an attack on Ukraine, it's an attack on the whole of European values, and it's an attack on the global peace order.
What do you think that the Greens, the political Green parties all over Europe can do in order to help Ukraine, to help the refugees, to contribute to the rebuilding of Ukraine after the war? We hope that the war will end somehow soon and Ukraine will be victorious. But what do you think that the Greens can do in the political field, in the economical field, and any other kind of support?
Especially where we are in governments, we have taken clear decisions to support Ukraine with all the means that we can support. This is different decisions than in different countries because we have different political circumstances. But we even supported weapon deliveries to Ukraine because Article 51 United Nations is giving and clearly describing the right to self-defense. And this was a unprovoked aggression against a neutral and independent country. And it's not just our duty, but it's our moral to support Ukraine. Because
even without the Article 51, even if it doesn't exist, even if, because you said that it's a moral duty.
Exactly, but we Greens, most of us, we're coming from peace movements, most of us have a pacifistic ideal, but we have to realize that the world just does not match our idea of peaceful coexistence of peoples all over the globe. And so this puts us in a very difficult situation, while we are clearly standing still on the side of negotiations, of peace building, peacekeeping, and the time will come to rebuild peace. The time will come when the war, the hot war, is going to be over. So it's going we're going to need negotiations. Actually, towards a nuclear power, there's no other option than negotiations at the end of the day, because the plan B is not even thinkable.
Yeah, but when you have such a state which is an aggressor, you have to defend yourself.
Exactly.
I'm a pacifist too, but
Yes.
I think that the democracies has to have the best armies in order to defend our liberties and freedoms. Otherwise, the whole planet will become a North Korea.
Exactly. So even if it may sound contradictory, but supporting Ukraine with weapons is active peace policy.
Yeah.
This Greens have made very clear. Wherever we have responsibility, this is the standpoints that we defend. On top of that, the situation shows that our dependency on fossil fuels is not just causing the biggest crisis the planet ever had, which is the climate crisis, but is also putting us in a situation of a security dimension, that we are threatened in our own security by our dependence on fossil fuels. And even if the focus is now on Russia and authoritarian regime of Putin, if you get our other sources of fossil fuels, most of the sources are authoritarian or feudal monarchies or dictatorships. So the dependency is a bigger one than just from Russia. And what we need to deliver now as Greens is solutions to get out of this big security threat of this dependency. So investment into renewables has geared up and will be even more geared up. Because even the ones that did not care for climate so much have finally realized that the dependency of fossil fuels is a much bigger problem than just climate. It's an economic problem, because we are losing and we're sending billions of euros to authoritarian regimes. It's a social problem. You see the increase of energy bills, which put our households and our citizens into a very difficult situation, and it's related to our dependency on fossil fuels. It's a security issue. I mean, no need to describe that anymore. And it's an environmental issue. And you see all these four crises are heavily related to each other, and they're all related to the fossil fuel problem. And we Greens, we bring the solutions. You can see wherever we're in government how we implement active policies to invest into renewables, to invest into house insulation, so into reduction of energy consumption, and how we also stand by citizens that have problems to actually pay their bills and that are put in a very difficult social situation as well.
And this crisis, this war, somehow might accelerate the transition to renewables.
Yes, exactly.
In a way, because there is a shift. Germany and other countries, almost all of the European Union countries said that they will cut their economical treaties with Russia in regard of energy, and this might accelerate the transition to renewables.
It already does.
Yeah. And sanctions to Russia and so on.
Exactly. Far-reaching sanctions to Russia. And I mean, you see in the financial crisis, it took us years to react. Yeah. In the COVID crisis, it took us months to react in the European Union. In this situation of the aggression of Putin against Ukraine, it took us a few days. And, you know, to describe a reaction of the European Union as agile is not something you can do very often.
Yeah.
But it was in this case. We're all standing close together. There's some slight differences, but I mean, this is also the diversity we have within Europe. But on the core questions, we're standing all next to each other. We're speaking with one voice, and the unity of the European Union has never been as big as it is now.
Two questions. Why humanity, Europe and humanity, needs Greens in the 21st century as a political approach?
We are a party that is completely detached from partial interests. So there's no big donations. We're not owing anything to industrial sectors or whoever. We're only basing our politics on what we believe and what we can offer to solve the crisis of the current reality, so to serve solutions. I think this is one of the main topics. I mean, look, we're a very big organization, so there may be some exceptions, but where is the corruption scandals around green politicians? Across the European Union, and that has a reason. We mean it. We're not there to make money. We're not there for our personal profit or for hidden interests, but we only and solely serve the citizens. And we may do a lot of good things, and sometimes we also may do mistakes, but we do them in good faith. The second thing is we are delivering coherent concepts that tackle the multidimensional spheres of the crisis that we have. I mean, it does not help today to say, well, we're advocating for independent energy supply since minimum 30 years. We're advocating for a fight against climate change for a minimum of 30 years. Okay, now today we are where we are, but we have the experience, we have the expertise. We are delivering in many cases, in cities, in regions, in national governments. And we have proven that we mean it and that we deliver. And I think this is the main offer that we're giving to citizens, and that we see the bigger picture. So we see that economy, ecology, and social issues is all parts of the same solution, needs to be part of the same solution, and that's the solutions we offer. And I think this is an important contribution to our future societies.
And my last question for you is, what would you tell to people in order to join politics, especially young people? Why should they join politics? Why should they care about what's happening in their countries? And speaking for Romania, what would you tell to the Romanian people, and especially young Romanian people, in order to inspire them to join politics?
Unfortunately, politics in many parts of Europe, maybe everywhere more or less, has discredited itself through the last centuries. I've seen so many cases where it was not a competition of best ideas, or even a competition of different ideologies or different points of views in our society, which are then reflected in democratic processes. But we've seen so often that the votes of citizens were sold for private or corporate interests. And this has discredited politics so much that I have a big understanding that young people do not believe that it makes sense to engage. But I would say it's exactly the wrong conclusion. It's exactly the young generations that need to prove that there is different politics, that you can do politics in a different way. And I think sometimes young people underestimate their impact. The Fridays for Future and climate movement that we've seen between 2018 and 2020 was the most influential power that we've seen in the European Union. Not parties, not the Commission, not government of whomever. It was these young people that were able to alert the whole society that we have a serious problem with global warming and we need to tackle that with all our policies. So young generations can have an enormous impact on policies and on politics. And many of these young people have also joined parties. A lot came to the Greens, some also went to liberals or left movements to engage themselves because they have realized, okay, we steer the narrative, we have alerted society, but now we have to make sure that there's real and concrete action on the ground. And for this real and concrete action, we need young people to join politics. And I would invite as many young people as possible to join political parties along their political preferences to show that we can change society for the better. As I'm talking to Romanian journalists, to all the Romanians, you have such a fantastic natural heritage. And this is a special gift, and this is also part of our all European natural heritage. I would ask you to take care for that, to stand up for that, and to not let corrupt or wasted interests destroy your natural heritage.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.